What's going on, everybody? I am joined by Blue Bones, right up here.
What's going on, y'all?
Sigma Gears 9, right over here.
What's up, everybody?
And we are going to be discussing The Mandalorian so far. So far, season 2. We're going to be going over some of the big reveals during the course of the last 5 episodes. And we welcome you guys to get involved in the conversation. It's the open party chat. Everybody's welcome. So if you have anything you want to add to the conversation, we're definitely listening. We got Command of Interest in the chat saying, "Hola, thank you for coming
Hey,
through."
what's up, Blue?
Mrs. Bones herself. Fine.
Soon enough, right?
Right. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started. We'll do a quick recap of season 1. Mondo, my man, was on Navarro. He just turned in the fish dude.
He said Mondo.
Mondo,
He did say Mondo.
Mondo, he was,
Y'all remember them drinks though?
Yeah, they was good too. He turned in the fish dude. Brought him in to Grief Cargo. Asked him for some more work. He was hungry for some work. Needed that money. He's like, "Well, we got something for you." Come to find out, the Empire was hiring. They wanted to put him to work to track down the bounty. They didn't have much. Said my volume's kind of low. They didn't have much info. They just had a key fob, which had some the target's age. Long story short, we found little baby of the Yoda race. Don't know what the race's name is, but we know he was of the same ethnicity.
The Yodai.
Yeah, right. Called. And then
Yodai.
He turns him in, has a change of heart, go backs and picks him up. Has a long battle with the Empire. Moff Gideon shows up.
Dope.
It was super dope. During this time, he came to appreciate droids in a way that he never appreciated them before.
True.
Which is very interesting because he had a bad history with them. At the end of it, the armorer from the Mandalorians tasked him with finding the Jedi and returning young the child to his people. And that's where we left off. Then that brings us on to season 2. Season 2 finds us on this kind of a town area. You can just see that it's dusk. Don't know where the location is. And he enters into the like a fighting arena.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And which was
Fight Club.
Yes, pretty interesting. What'd you guys think about that interaction with him and them trying to basically jack him for his armor?
I felt like. No, you go first.
Like just straight up from as soon as I saw the Fight Club, you had the I gotta remember the name of the race, but the
like
pig
the
people.
Pig people.
Yeah, I thought that was a really cool throw in. Like, yeah, they're everywhere, not just in Jabba's palace. But I was looking forward. Beyond Good and Evil. I was looking forward to Mando throwing hands. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't expect him to just sit on the side and handle business there, which is not a problem. You know what I mean? He's not necessarily he's not in it for the kicks like that. But I was expecting that. But I did get a nice fight scene out of it anyway, so it worked out.
I do. I do think that's kind of all that scene was there for. Like it was the reintroduction to these characters and the world for the beginning of the show. So I don't think that situation really had much to do with anything in particular. Like they could have just started on the planet where he meets Timothy Oliphant or whatever.
Yeah.
But I do remember seeing John Leguizamo's name in the credits, and I couldn't place where he was in the show. So I'm assuming he must have been the gangster guy he was talking to, right? Like, do you guys know?
No, but we'll find that out.
Because I'm like, John Leguizamo was in this? Is it like? Because I can't think of where else he would have been, a cameo. Like no other character other than Timothy Oliphant was like kind of given any real dialogue with him.
He was the Cyclops dude.
Ah, okay. Yep.
He was the guy that was running that.
The one who shot the one pig guy, and then all right, makes sense. Yep. That's what I thought. Lampy says I'm clipping. Yeah, I don't know what to do about that. I think that's just an internet thing, unfortunately.
Videos buffering.
What you mean?
Slowly, so you can talk on the advanced
Oh,
settings.
I thought you meant like clipping the making a clip on Twitch. I was like, yeah, go for it. No, I see what you're talking about. Yeah, one thing I like about Star Wars in general, and you see it a lot, especially with these smaller series, is that there's a lot of actors who just want to be in the production. It doesn't matter if their face is shown or not. Yep. Now, Mando excluded, he's a star. That's a different situation. Mm-hmm. But you can see there's a lot of big names who just want to be on set, and I love the love for Star Wars and its production. And yeah, that's a really good example of him, because you him unless you looked it up.
Yeah.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
It was a cameo, but it wasn't. You know what I mean? Like, they were there, but it wasn't like thrown in your face that it was this person in this universe. And that happens a lot in Star Wars. I love it.
Yeah, like I didn't know until he just said something. So I'm like, oh wow, that is pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool.
I just saw the name in the credits. It was like, what?
Yeah.
I missed something. Okay, so then that brings us to the introduction of Cobb Vanth, or the Marshal, and the armor that he's wearing. I mean, we all know whose armor it was, which was
that was dope.
Yes,
that Boba Fett armor.
It's like, and then our question is their interaction. He's like, he thought he was a Mandalorian at first until he took his helmet off. He's like, oh, like, who are you? Like, what are you doing with that armor? He's like, I found it pretty much. He got it from the Jawas pretty much.
I believe him.
Yeah, he's like, hey, I just happened upon it. So the last time we saw that armor was with Boba Fett going into the Sarlacc pit. So we're like, how'd this guy get it? So obviously that was a big introduction to Cobb Vanth. What'd you guys think about their whole deal of help me kill the Krayt Dragon and I'll give you back the armor?
I'm glad we're talking about this in particular, because this was something I said to Kia while we were watching the show, and it's something that has happened in the previous season as well, but it's kind of right in your face in this season. There is going to be a Mandalorian video game at some point, because that show's pacing is exactly like a video game. Yeah, like every single place he goes to, he's like, hey, I need this. They say, sure, I'll help you, but you got to do this for me. And then they go on a big adventure, right? And there's a big mission that they got to do. So, I'm used to that, but also it also makes for good episodic storytelling, which is what The Mandalorian does. And this is where it's starting kind of to show its break for me, where I like the episodic nature of it. I do like that there's a through line, but they're like, The Mandalorian is very, very popular right now, so let's bring in all the rest of Star Wars into it, because the movies haven't been doing too great and whatnot. So everything that fans love and thought was popular, let's bring it back. Boba Fett has not been, relevant in any real Star Wars story after he died in Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
You shut your mouth.
He hasn't been. He died then, and that was kind of it for him, right?
He showed up in Clone Wars.
Did he? I don't remember him showing up in Clone Wars.
He had like a 2.
Oh no, when he was a kid. Right.
Yeah.
Right, you're right. Yeah, when he was a child.
He tried to kill Mace Windu.
Yeah.
And Mace Windu said, F them kids.
All right, you're right about that. But essentially, they're basically saying, like, well, that guy who's been dead for all this time, guess what? He's maybe not dead. Maybe we could bring him back.
Maybe not. Yeah.
But we don't know for sure, but like, they're teasing it. It's almost like they want to know what the fans will think of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, all right, so is this about The Mandalorian or is this about Star Wars? Mm-hmm. Because they're bringing in everything else now. And that was the first clue. There's more of it, going into it.
Yeah, and I know we're going to get into it a little bit later, but the latest episode has got me a little bit concerned, along kind of the same lines that you're thinking about. Mm-hmm. Is this show about The Mandalorian, or is this about the Star Wars universe? Because it's expanding into a lot of other stories that we know and love.
Mm-hmm. And really quickly.
Yes.
Very fast. But is this story about The Mandalorian or about all those other stories? Because we'll talk about it later. I don't want to skip ahead. But yeah. In this in this first episode, I really like Cobb Vanth's character, to be honest. At first I thought he was too cocky. I thought he was about to get his butt whooped. I was so ready for Mando to throw hands. But I gotta admit, I get scared every time he walks away from the child.
Yes.
Every time he walks away from the child, I'm like, yo, someone's finna snatch him up. I just know it's gonna happen. And so whenever he was sitting in, I'm thinking about an episode later actually, but in this first episode, uh, still just not the safest place, and I just get anxiety. Uh, but yeah, Cobb Vanth, I think he was cool. I think he did what he was supposed to do. He protected people like he said he would. He had his little flashback where he kind of came back from the brink of death and came back to be the marshal. I don't remember him doing anything that was too immoral, but yeah, I think he was a good character. He kept his end of the deal, and he put in work to try and bridge the gap between that town and the Tusken Raiders.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about him was this: he was protecting that town from pretty much. They tried to be enslaved, but in that mining town, they tried to enslave everybody. And he got ran out of town. He found that armor, and that was his way. And for him not to be trained as a Mandalorian, he was actually efficient at using the armor. Even the rocket on the back, he was pretty good at using it. I mean, not to the level of Mando or anybody like that, Mando or anybody, but he was able to actually use it. So, and then that brings us to the slaying of the Krayt Dragon and how that and the deal they made with the Tusken Raiders for I think half the meat and the pearl. I mean, we didn't. And did you see the size of that pearl?
Whatever that thing is that significant? That pearl thing that matters in like a greater thing.
It's super rare. Number one, because it just from the things it eats, it creates these calcium deposits in its body, and the pearl just has a chance. You know what I'm saying? It's like a rare spawn.
A random drop.
You know so it has a chance to spawn in the creature, and it's worth a lot of money. You know what I mean? So imagine these custom raiders just living out in the desert. Now they got like a flying fortress or some crap. That's how much money they just came into.
So do you think that's gonna come back and be relevant? That these particular raiders or whatnot managed to get their hands on a pearl? No,
I don't think anything because they haven't really been like a really threat. If you notice, Mando, he's pretty much been able to communicate with them and use them for information and stuff like that. And that shows a difference that we haven't seen in the past movies. Before, they were just made to be savages and, they just kill you for a slice of bread or something.
Yeah, no, exactly to your point. And this is one thing that I didn't like about Obi-Wan. He called them sand people. Yeah. That seems like a very loaded term, I mean, when someone calls one of us articulate, you're just like, come on, man.
He's kind of bougie.
He is kind of bougie.
Yeah, he is. But yeah, the framing that we got from episode 4 was that sand people were savages. Don't talk to them. Don't touch them. Don't go near them. I'm sure a lot of people think that about other races, and we can kind of relate to that. So it was really cool to see Mando actually be on good terms, or I should say neutral terms with these guys, and know how to speak to them. Another really quick thing about the Tusken Raiders, I thought it was super cool that they talk, at least a portion of their language is sign language. Yeah, I thought that was dope.
That was pretty cool. Yeah,
I thought that was super cool because we never really tried to communicate with Tusken Raiders before this. You know what I mean? They might have shown up here or there, but there was no grunts and gesticulations that we really paid attention to.
Yeah.
So to add that in, I think, and I'm gonna double check, but I think one of the main actors for the Tusken Raiders was actually deaf too.
No, I remember reading that. Yeah.
Oh, wow,
okay, yeah. So that's some really good inclusion, not just to the diversity of the universe, but the diversity of the cast as well. Yeah. So hats off to that.
That was cool. I do like that kind of bridging that gap, even though that particular race is kind of unpopular in terms of just Star Wars attention in general. One more thing I want to actually bring up about Timothy Olyphant's character. I did like him, but I do feel like he was kind of underutilized. Like he's not that interesting.
He's definitely gonna come back.
Yeah, and exactly, kind of like how they did in the first season, where all the people he meets will probably at some point come back. Mm-hmm. I do think he will come back. I just felt like I don't care whether or not he comes back. You know what I mean? Because he didn't leave that much of a lasting impression, especially now that he gave Mando back the armor. Like he doesn't even have that particular thing about him where, oh, this is the guy who's wearing Boba Fett's armor. Like that at least would have made him more interesting than him just being the marshal of some no-name town in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. But so right now we don't know if and I guess we'll get to that part, the familiar figure in the back. So we all have suspicions or opinions on who that might be. He looked like one of the clones, which is a genetic clone of,
Jango Fett.
Jango Fett, and Boba Fett is one of those clones, which was
the only one who wasn't agent, modified,
yes.
right?
So everybody's thinking because he was missing eyebrows and stuff like that, it might actually be Boba Fett. Now, what he was doing was he was observing the events that took place as they killed the Krayt Dragon. Now, from what I'm guessing, he doesn't know that Mando has the armor. He might go see Cobb Vanth because he saw him wearing it. Also, if you remember, when they were tracking down that bounty hunter in season 1 on Tatooine in the desert, those footprints, they're thinking that might have been him. They were black boots. So I'm thinking it might have been
Peculiar.
him. Some speculation it might have been him, but we don't know. That's how
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, that's how they could bring back Cobb Vanth. He go see him. Hey, you had my armor, or whatever it is. He might have been out looking for this armor. We don't know how it got off of him. He was in a Sarlacc pit. So if the armor made it out, it's most likely that he made it out. Obviously.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of
a possibility.
Yeah, that's kind of the what is the word? Like the tease.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was
like, oh, if this is here, then I wonder where the guy wearing it is.
We can almost connect the dots. Almost.
And also they also, and I hate to feel like I'm stealing this information from Darren Mooney, who does the in the frame stuff on The Escapist, but he made a really good point. Like in that show, Mando goes inside of the Krayt Dragon and he destroys it from the inside and comes back out, so as to kind of show you, hey,
it's possible.
Mandalorians can do this kind of thing. Like they're nice like that. So it's like they're really trying to sell it to you. Boba Fett's probably out there.
Well, it's a small
difference. I'm gonna have a. Oh, I'm sorry, Joe.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I'm gonna have a actually moment right now. I don't think Boba Fett's a Mandalorian.
Yeah, he's not.
And the only reason why I say that is because he wasn't really trained or brought up in that culture. Now, I think it's kind of like, and excuse me if I'm being offensive, but I think it's kind of like Judaism, where you can be born into the culture and you can practice the religion, right? But you would still say that Jewish blood runs through your veins,
right?
Whether you go one way or the other. So I think
wouldn't he have that blood then? Was he not a clone of someone who was born on Mandalore?
So that's what I was about to say. Well, one, I don't know if Jango Fett was born on Mandalore.
Yeah, we don't know.
That's a good thing. Or that's not a good thing. That's a so
why would they?
So the chicken and the egg.
Well, because
he was a really good bounty hunter, and then the Mandalorian race kind of came about from him. They started to build that from him.
Around Jango? That's not true. I don't think.
As far as the movies go, like there wasn't much information about him besides.
Oh, okay. I get what you're saying.
Okay.
You're saying lore-wise, they extrapolated out from that character and gave him all this backstory.
Yeah.
Gave the world all this backstory. Okay, I get what you're saying.
It technically started from Boba Fett. Because obviously his character came first, and I have one of these books about like the production of Star Wars, and one of the things I read in there is that he wasn't even supposed to be a bounty hunter at first. He was supposed to be a super soldier. His whole outfit, the same one that we see, was like all white. He was a super trooper. That's what they named it. But it was like, it sounded too corny, supposedly. And so they made him like a bounty hunter instead, like a personal bounty hunter. Bosk? I can't remember. It's either Vosk or Bosk. I think it's Bosk. And
the name is familiar.
One or two other people. Yeah. He's let's not get into that. But he had a couple other bounty hunters. And yeah, that's how that started. But yeah, you're right. Boba Fett, Jango Fett, they've kind of expanded off of their characters into this whole Mandalorian race.
But because of that, I do think Jango Fett would have to be a Mandalorian. Like, what are they doing if he was not at all connected to the Mandalorian race?
No. This is the thing.
Going all day. But I think we're gonna get on a tangent. Let's get back to who. So we have our impressions of who that might be. Obviously Boba Fett, we think it might be. They teased him a little bit. Haven't seen him since. So wonder when he might pop up again. Then that brings us to Tatooine. Okay. He went back.
Man.
He met what was her name? Palomado. The lady he met in season 1.
Paul Giamatti.
Who helped? Who helped fix his ship?
That's Princess Caroline from BoJack Horseman.
Yeah.
Oh, Amy Sedaris.
What's her name in the universe?
Yeah, I think that's her name.
So we met her.
She is so lovable.
She is. We met her. She gives him, finds him helping him get a tip. He's gonna help this frog lady cross to the next planet where her husband is. She said her husband has knowledge of where the more Mandalorians are. They're gonna go to the moon of Tusk. During the course of this trip, we get, a lot of controversial, well, not really a lot of controversial stuff. We get the whole issue with Baby Yoda or the child eating the eggs. What do you guys take away?
He's hungry. All that needs to be said about that is he was hungry and he saw food. Boom. If he got access to that, that's somebody's problem. I don't know if it's his fault necessarily, but he saw food, he ate it.
When your parent says, "Hey, don't touch that," and you continue to go and touch that, that is your fault because you heard the direction. Like Baby Yoda, the child he's not incapable of understanding. He heard the direction and did it anyway. So
he's a child.
Yes,
he's a bad child.
Yes.
He's a bad child, and he needs to be reprimanded, punished, whatever, to correct the behavior.
He does need to be punished.
None of which happened. But I don't think
not a dad. Mando's not a dad.
But he kind of
He's
is.
like, I'm about to drop him off tomorrow.
He kind of is a dad in this situation.
Well, I think what
he's the courier.
What the show was doing, they were trying to show that this is still a child. They were doing it in the most drastic way they can do it. But they were saying that even though this is, Star Wars, he's a child. He's still going to do. I mean, how many times have you told Star Wars don't do something, and he just did it anyway? And what do you say? He's a child. He's gonna do it.
He probably got a punishment.
I think you made the comment before. Like if he didn't do anything that I told him not to do, he would have the most boring life ever.
I did say that.
And that is the same thing. Like if this child wasn't doing he told me not to, I'm gonna do it anyway. So and he went and did it anyway, and he just kept doing it.
There's definitely a limit to that, though, right? We're talking about the extinction of somebody's species.
But I don't think they did it in a serious manner. They did it for comedic relief, but also to push the envelope, like I said, to the highest degree. That he is a child, he is a baby. I think everybody forgets that because
he don't get it.
Yeah, he can use the.
I don't think anybody forgets that. The child who's nicknamed literally Baby Yoda is kind of a baby. Like he's got the big doughy eyes. He's always making cooing sounds, even though he's 50 years old. We forget that he's 50 years old, not that he's a baby.
Okay. Now let's talk about this 50-year-old thing because I knew that number was going to come up. With 50 years old, our 50 years old is not their 50 years old, obviously, right? For all we know, it's kind of like dog years thing. 25 years, our 25 years is probably 1 year to them. I think he's about, in his head, 2-3 years old. I think he is super young.
Well, I think we'll get to the flip side of that.
Yeah. So
in the next episode, maybe,
actually,
or no, 2 episodes later.
And you got to think about it because you don't know how long. Never mind. That'll come up later too, so I gotta be careful not to mention that. So after that part, we come to the Mando's interaction with the rebels. So pretty much he gets pulled over. I don't know if they're profiling him or not, but they pull him over.
They definitely profiled him.
Hey, what you doing out here? Did you just come? Where you coming from? Oh, I'm coming from work, man. You sure you coming from work? Yeah. Well, and they asked him for his VIN number, and he's like, "Oh, that's not working." He's like, "Oh, I got it to work." He's like, "Well, we need you to stop." And they're like, "He's not. I'm not gonna do that." So he, they go, they chase him, they crash down to the planet. And we don't. I mean, I wasn't thinking about it at first why they would be pulling him over. I figured it was just a quick check. People in the area, they're trying to establish their authority. We just took things back over. They're obviously they're low on manpower because if you remember,
it's only them two out there.
Yeah. You either seen them
in that whole sector.
Yeah. Or the other ship we saw droids. So remember that prison ship? It was like a ghost ship. It had one person, all droids.
Yeah.
So, we land on the planet, we know what happens with the whole spider and all that issue. And then they meet back up. And then everything that transpired between their first meeting and their second meeting, I'll let you go. How did you guys feel about that?
Well, I think it was an awkward cameo. I think it was a good cameo, but it was awkward. Not okay. I'll be honest. It's because these guys are kind of old and big and low-key out of shape. I don't see them scrapping with nobody. It's not that they can't fly. Is that I don't see them being authoritative.
So that's my question. So these two pilots, they are actually from those movies?
No, there's been like nods to like the name Commander Wolf. There was a Commander Wolf in Rebels, I believe. It's not the same person. I think it was more of a nod to the actual character. Even the white beard was a nod to the actual character. But these aren't
okay. Because I also thought it was odd how old the actor was. Like he's like talking to people. He's kind of like this aged, kind of gruff detective kind of dude.
Well,
I'm like, is he supposed to be somebody?
You got to remember that the rebels were just ordinary people. They had to bring about anybody who wanted to fight. Like, so you might have had farmers, you might have had, dads.
True.
People who did, these weren't just like people who joined up and volunteered to be part of the military. Anybody who could fight was fighting. So, these might have been old pilots who had retired from the previous whatever, but you had anybody fighting. So it kind of fits. Just before we move on, I want to acknowledge a chat. We got Sincere who popped in and said, "I love y'all boys."
What's up, Bimbeer?
See this before I get off a breakout cry. Not really. We got Cato who was saying that Boba definitely isn't he's not a Mandalorian, but he's definitely out there. We got DJ Blue over here trying to avoid the full lore. Dive is hilarious. So he's basically saying Blue's trying not to go too deep, but so it's funny. Okay, that's all we got. I think we're a little caught up. We'll do a little better job of chiming you guys in. Once you start getting talk about Star Wars, things kind of just start rolling off. So go back to you. I think Casey, you were.
No, yeah, I was just, I don't know. It just struck me as because they kind of stand out. Like they looked kind of odd. That is a good explanation for it. But either way, like because the show has been going down this path of kind of just bringing in everything. Like when you see X-wings, of course you're like, oh, that reminds me of everything else. Yeah. So who's in that ship? Maybe they're not that important. I was just wondering if they actually were.
And that's true, because it could have been any ship they were flying, but it just so happened that most people would, I guess, recognize X-Wings as being used by the Rebels, that they were like, yeah, let's use those.
So more on the production side, just a little fun fact. One of those X-Wings pilots was actually Fiolini? I can't say his name, but the showrunner, the co-showrunner.
One of the actors was one of the showrunners.
One of the directors of Mandalorian.
Oh, cool.
What's his name? I can't think of the guy's name. He actually Happy. He was in Iron Man. John.
Oh, Jan.
Yeah.
Favreau.
He does that a lot. Like he will input characters who were actually directing and stuff as characters in the movie. I was just watching the making of Elf, and he actually had his son as one of the actors. Stuff like that. So they'll actually incorporate a lot of that stuff into it. Just something subtle.
Yeah, and I think we're just the next episode, but
indeed, it's Dave Filoni.
Yes,
Dave Filoni. Thank you.
That's the showrunner, I guess, right?
Yeah, showrunners. I was gonna say something I forgot, but it's okay.
No, my bad. I cut you off. You were mentioning Carl Weathers as a director, right?
Carl Weathers directed his the episode that he was recently in as well.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of, you definitely see a lot of people getting into this, getting on set as much as possible. I love how they just want to be there. Even if they don't do nothing, even if they're just wearing a helmet, they just want to be there. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's fun.
And you get a lot of different people directing episodes.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. You get a lot of people directing different episodes. He does do a good job with that. I can't think of her name either. The leading lady from Jurassic World.
Yeah.
She actually did the episode of them in the marsh.
What's his name's daughter? Oh my gosh, he's like one of my favorite directors, and he's a classic. He did Arrested Development. Who am I thinking about, babe? The dude, Ron Howard's daughter. Thank you.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Rebel? Is that her name? Was that her fake name from? Yeah, it was a fake one for Arrested Development.
Okay.
I was like, I don't think Rebel was a real person.
This leads us to our last tidbit for episode 2 was they arrive on the Moon of Trust after pretty much just like barely making it there. Ship was falling apart. They just locked themselves in the the cockpit and just kind of sealed that off.
Yeah.
And just made it. It barely couldn't use hyperdrive because the eggs wouldn't have survived. And we come across the cloaked woman when we get there, lady in all black robe, just kind of observing, Mondo getting out of the ship and all that stuff. We come to find out who that lady is, but there was speculation who it might have been. Some people thought it might have been Sabine Wren from Rebels. Some people thought it. I mean, it didn't look like Rosario Dawson, but they thought it might have been a Rosario Dawson rumored character, Tano.
Nah, that wouldn't even make any. That wouldn't make any kind of sense if it was her there.
Super boop. So yeah. So what do you guys think about that after the landing, the whole interaction? Because then that brings us into where things start getting in the nitty gritty.
I love season 2 so far, but I think episode 3 is probably my favorite. From the setting down to the action, and the one that we were talking about, Bryce Howard actually directed this one. Spaceport and the naval port at the same exact time.
Right.
I thought that was super dope. You had men who looked like fishermen, and they were driving hover ships. It was so cool to see a naval port in a space age. The way they did it, it looked so natural too. Hats off. I love that setting. Just like you said, they introduced Bo-Katan. She's a dope character. We've seen her from Rebels. We've seen her in Clone Wars. You know what I mean? She goes hard. We know her sister Duchess, R.I.P. Well,
before we go there, let's kind of go to how she appears. So pretty much,
I'm sorry.
It's okay. They get on the ship. Tell him he knows some Mandalorians. They get on the ship. He follows them because he's so eager to find more Mandalorians. And he's like, hey, there's something down there. Let the baby have a look. Kicks the baby in, and then he jumps in after him, and they close the fence. Okay, Mando's getting, he swims down, comes back up for air, and then in comes 3 Mandalorians. We have Bo-Katan, obviously, who we know. We now see eventually that cloaked lady was actually one of the Mandalorians who landed, and we have another guy. They come in, they kick butt, and pretty extravagant fashion too. Like they take them out like nobody's
relatively easy.
Yeah, and it's like boom, they take off. He's like, oh, thank you, blah blah blah, and then they take off their helmets, and then his reaction is
he's like,
where'd you get that armor from? He's like, what do you mean? He's like, we don't take off our helmets. You're not Mandalorian. He's like,
the record scratched so hard in his head.
And it brings you back to his same reaction to what Kyle, and he just had dealt with that. So he's like, where everybody just getting these armors from? He's like, what's going on? Everybody just got Mandalorian armor. He's like, where'd you get that? He's like, listen, fam, I'm old school. I'm an OG. My family has been in this. I was born on Mandalore. It's like, wait a minute. And their reaction is,
you're not going to gatekeep me.
No. He's like, how you going to tell me what I can, what I can't wear?
Right.
Yeah, it's like, you were something else.
I'm glad they finally, went there, and that's the kind of thing I like. It's like all these different, situations have nothing really to do with this, theme story for the most part. But then you get the little bits here and there. Like this was like a big reveal because a lot of people had questions about like, so what is this stuff about never taking off the helmet? Because like this guy always did, that guy always did, right? So like they were confused. They finally explained it. This is kind of like a cult. Like they're like a specific subsection or religious followers from like kind of broken off from the main Mandalore, whatever.
You remember Blackwatch from the Clone Wars?
Yes, they were also like a faction, right?
We're pre-Vizsla, so it seems that even though they lost, there was still a subset who still followed in his traditions of going back to the old ways. And if you notice, Mondo struggled with the whole. He didn't struggle with it, but he knew the importance of leaving his helmet on. He knew that taking that off meant that he was giving up the life. So it's gonna definitely see how he comes to terms with what Mandalore is and what he's kind of grown up to see it, what it's supposed to be.
Right, because he was raised in it as a child, and as a child who was also raised in a very religious household and kind of rebelled against it. I would love to see that story of him basically being like, well, I don't have to do this to be a Mandalorian, Like I can follow what I want to do. I don't have to follow this rigid path that's been set out for me because he's been so lost as a kid because of the tragedy that struck him and such. So like I would love to see that, and that would be like a really good character arc I think for him.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to see some growth from Mando. One thing that watching this season has made me realize about Star Wars in general is that it's a story full of cults, man. There's a whole bunch of stuff, you know. I wanted to talk about. Let me bring it back to Mando because I was going to talk about some Obi-Wan stuff having to do with Bo-Katan. But yes, the fact that, just like you said, they kind of pointed out, like, yo, you're in a cult and you don't know it.
Right.
And Mando's like, what you talking about? This is the way. Like, you notice how your reaction is always, right, like, this is the way?
She teased him, right? Yeah, like she used it on him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they know all about what he is and he doesn't know anything outside of that. So, like, that really, like, that's going to eat at him.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of, and this is what I like, right? Good stories have the protagonist or I should say a lot of good stories have the protagonist with close to as much knowledge as you have as a viewer, right? Mm-hmm. So it feels like Mando's been kind of living under a rock for we don't know how long, right, because it feels like the rest of the world or galaxy or universe has progressed without him. He doesn't really like droids. He doesn't take off his helmet. He's very stoic. An introvert doesn't make you, left behind. But for him and his lifestyle, it really feels like he's missed out on a whole bunch. And we're seeing really that knowledge gap and cultural gap between him and his sect to everybody else. And it's really interesting to see. It's great. He's a straight shooter, straightforward guy. And we're going to see how he kind of breaks out of this with this unpredictable child.
Yeah. And then that brings us to Bo-Katan says, "Hey, if you want my help, you need to help me." So she, helps him. We find out she's actually hunting Moff Gideon herself. She wants that dark blade black. She wants the black saber back.
Dark saber.
So she's like, "Listen, where is he? So Mando helps him with that. At the end, Bo-Katan says, "Listen, Ahsoka, go find her at the city of Calodan. That's where she is. Tell her Bo-Katan sent you." Mando gets ready to leave. He realizes his ship is in no situation to leave.
Condition.
Yeah. It's like not gonna work. I couldn't find a word. We see the ship, and like Blue said, it's a naval port and it's a seaport. And you see how the guy repaired the ship with like nets and stuff like that. So that definitely plays into that. And it was like, okay, definitely aquatic feel to it. He's like, "What'd you do? I gave you 1,000 credits, bro."
He's like, "Yes." You gave me only 1,000 credits.
Like, blah, 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 blah. So he's like, "Listen, we got to go see some old friends." And they set back to Navarro. Then you have Grief Karga. Go ahead. Shoot.
Can I talk about this last episode real quick? Just last thing I want to say. Mm-hmm. I think the fight scenes were probably the best in the season so far.
Oh, absolutely.
I loved the choreography. These Mandos went in. All of them. And I had one more thing. I think it's going to be longer. I can't remember what it was.
But what I just wanted to also point out, wasn't one of the black female Mandalorian, wasn't she a wrestler?
Yes. I did see that posted.
This is the second pugilist that they've hired for these roles. I love it.
The first.
Gina,
you're talking about Gina Carano?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they definitely have the pool that they're pulling from, which is working. It's awesome. I love Gina Carano's character as well.
Do you think John Cena will make an appearance?
I hope not.
If he does, he won't.
I hope not. Right? It would come in like a Wookiee.
He probably already did.
We don't know. So then that takes us to Navarro. Okay, Grief Karga gets there, and you see the drastic turnaround from when the beginning of season 1 to what Navarro looks like now. They have schools. They have traders. It's actually a town. People living there now.
It's flourishing.
So, yeah, it's been like since the Empire's been gone, it's been doing its thing. Now remember, it's in the outer rims of space, so it's definitely harder to manage. Even the Empire couldn't really maintain it. So he's like, "Hey, I need you to help us. They're gonna repair the ship for free. Baby is in school, getting this thing done. We need you to come help us." They go.
He's in school stealing cookies.
Right, he's like selling cookies. Like,
no,
see,
macaroons,
that plays back to him being a kid. He said, "Can I have some?" He said, "No." I was a stingy kid, by the way. He didn't want to give him no macaroons or nothing.
He just met this guy.
He just met him.
But he didn't even say hi.
He got like
he
2
didn't even say what's up.
He
said, "Hey, what's up? My name is Grogu. How you doing? How you living?"
Whoa. on.
Can I get a cookie?
So,
he said,
let
me get that.
So we're going to go to, he said, help me out. They go into this Empire base. We need to get, destroy it, get the last remnants of the Empire gone. We get in there, we realize that this ain't no abandoned base. We find out that Moff Gideon is alive. It's like, hey, that must be an old recording. He's like, nah, this is like 2 days ago.
Yesterday.
Bro. This is like new. So what do you guys think about that? I mean, we already knew. We knew he was alive. But now, what do you think that does to, well, we saw what it did, but what do you think that does to Mando's mindset? Like, oh, dad, this dude's alive.
Honestly, I think he's just trying, especially at this point, in chapter 4 of this season, he's like, forget all this. I'm just trying to find Ahsoka and be done with this so I could just be out of here and go back to my regular bounty hunting job. I think that this whole time he just wants to get back to his old life while unintentionally forming connections with the child. And we talk about that later.
No, I think that's basically the whole premise of the show. It's the road. It's that story that we keep seeing over and over again. Like, it's The Last of Us, it's God of War, like the new remake. It's that same thing, right? Except I was never convinced that Mando had any real intention of parting with the kid, and like he didn't care about like from like the first episode, he was like, oh, he saved my life, I owe him, and blah blah blah. Like, he was always like kind of connecting with him. Yeah, like from the beginning. Yeah. So yeah, like, not for 1 second that I think he would ever reach his destination and give him up, which is coming up later. Yeah. But
so we'll actually fast forward to that. I'll just give a brief description of what we're going to talk about. We noticed that they were experimenting on with metachlorines, and we see some clones and some not so good looking clones. And Blue will tell us what that kind of plays into for the overall mythos of Star Wars and where that's relevant to, and then we find out that they chipped the ship. We know they're tracking him. They know he still has a child. But clones, what do those clones mean to Star Wars?
Man, clones can mean anything in Star Wars. I'm not gonna lie, clones can mean anything in Star Wars. One thing I always say, one thing I want to mention, right? But clones. Originally, the cloning capital of the universe is Kamino.
Well, I mean more towards like recent stuff, like because we know that
most definitely.
Yeah, we know that Palpatine in the latest movie had clones that he was working on to kind of transfer whatever his consciousness to, and there's been suspicions that Snoke was actually a clone as opposed to a actual natural born, like whatever he was.
I watched all those movies. I don't even remember who the hell Snoke is. I remember that name. I don't know what the hell Snoke has to do with anything. Like, that's how little any of that made sense to me.
He was like the Dark Lord was mentoring Kylo Ren.
Right, but yeah, I know that much. But like, other than he was Kylo Ren's boss, like, okay, he basically fell out of nowhere and then I don't even remember him dying. Like, what?
Yeah, no, Kylo got him on some like technicalities, on some wordplay in his mind. It was I thought it was creative, but in hindsight, it was kind of funky. The only reason why I brought up Kamino is because I think Snoke looks like one of the Kaminoans.
Oh, like the I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
that's just something I thought about the other day. I think he looks like one of those. He could have been working for the Emperor at that time and cloning him, blah blah blah. Right, and I think this might have been one of his facilities. I think it's possibly connected to Snoke. I don't know. This is just Blue Bone's original theory.
Remember that you heard it here first. So if it happens,
you heard it here first.
If that does turn out to be true, do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? Because I personally think that those threads leading to the Palpatine stuff are bad. Like, I don't want this show to start going into any of that.
I wanted to stay away from that as well. All right, so before we got one last topic with not much time left, so we're gonna move us along just a little further because this stuff is gonna require a lot more conversation. We get the introduction of Ahsoka Tano. Oh my god, I don't know what's going on. I need some water. And in all her glory,
someone redeem hydrate.
She shows up in the mist, is taking people out.
Yes.
Her Jedi powers on full display. We see how she's grown through the course of the Clone Wars, Rebels, and now a full-fledged Jedi. She doesn't call herself a Jedi, but she's full-fledged.
Probably for the better.
Yes. What were you guys? What were your thoughts on her appearance?
Go ahead, Sigma.
Yeah, I want to say I told you guys this before after I binged the crap out of the Clone Wars. I personally think Ahsoka Tano is the best Jedi that has ever Jedi'd. Like, she is better at that job than anybody else who calls himself a Jedi.
Now, let me get this straight.
She's better at carrying out their mission, but she's not a Jedi. She's better at carrying out the Jedi mission, but she's not a Jedi.
Fair enough.
I don't feel like she's the most powerful, but I do feel like she has a better sense of what's right and what's wrong.
Right, she's definitely not the most powerful. Yeah. But also, power scaling in Star Wars is another thing that I think has a lot of work to be done. Because, like, it's hard to really measure. Like, they'll tell you somebody is all kinds of powerful, and then, like, they'll
usually describe it in feats. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like, this person did this or this person did that.
Yeah,
it's too wonky for my.
It is. It's usually based off of what they've done. Like, Revan is defined by being the one who beat Mandalore, and Mandalore was pretty much taking over the universe. So they're always their power is pretty much described by their feats. So unfortunately, that's how.
Yeah, but I want to say, like,
terrible.
Rosario Dawson did the character so much justice. Like, she was perfect for this role as adult Ahsoka.
Oh, we got to hydrate.
And I want like that opening scene with all of her stealth kills and whatnot. That was really cool. The stuff with the magistrate, less so.
Yes, I agree.
I thought the opposite. Wow, that's so crazy. That first scene, I was like, this is not as acrobatic as I remember Ahsoka. And then later on through the episode, especially when she was going through the town, I was like, that's the Ahsoka I remember. Jumping over buildings, doing all these flips, da-da-da-da.
Yes.
Well, that's fine. I'm specifically talking about the showdown between her and the magistrate. And
I thought it was dope.
I didn't think it was bad. And I thought it was... She did win decisively when she switched to her, patented side grips. But you gotta remember, she was using a Beskar staff, which pretty much repels
lightsaber emission. Yeah.
So,
that's why Mandalorians were such a threat to Jedi. Because Beskar is that. Oh yeah. Oh, the magistrate was.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that I like about is actually Bruce Lee's goddaughter.
Oh, wow.
No way, for real?
Look at you.
Yeah, Diana Inosanto is her name. And yeah, her father was trained by Bruce Lee, and Bruce Lee was her godfather. So she's kind of a legend in the martial arts world, which is why I was kind of so
hyped to see her do
down. Yeah, like, I'm like, okay, we got Ahsoka Tano going up against this legendary martial artist, and she was putting in the stances and whatnot. And then the fight was just kind of like, you know what? Maybe she's old, like, because it looked like it was her doing it all, but like it was so slow paced. Like, it just wasn't entertaining. So it was a letdown for me.
Okay.
I think for me, if I saw that scene by itself, like that fight just by itself, I might not have been entertained. And it might be playing into what you're saying, but the fact that they had a Western showdown and a samurai duel simultaneously,
right? Yeah, that is
like that blew my mind. So I might have just threw out how slow that fight was, but I loved every second of it because there was so much tension and different types of tension on either side of that wall.
And it wasn't
you know what I mean?
It wasn't a one-sided battle. It was some give and some take there. She gave some ground
on both sides, actually.
Yeah, so it was a very, because when you thought, she's like, oh, this is over, she got her, it's over. Then she's like, nah, I can fight. Like, she did say at the beginning, don't underestimate her. She is a threat. Like, don't just think because it's me and you that it won't be any resistance. Then we noticed, Ahsoka Tano gets her and she reveals that who she's actually looking for. We heard her say before, where's your master? She says, where is Grand Admiral Thrawn? Remember, make sure to put the respect on his name. So for you who don't know who Grand Admiral Thrawn is, he is from Rebels. He is a, what again, Blue? What's his race again?
Chiss. CHISS.
There we go. And
they talk in monotone and weird cadences like this. It's very unsettling if they're angry.
And they have blue skin. They kind of look like
yeah.
He appeared in Rebels. Was the pretty much one of the main antagonists in that
He's
series.
so dope.
He is actually pretty much the greatest military mind in Star Wars. He believes in if you learn about a particular race's art, you can learn what their weaknesses and what their strengths are and how to defeat them.
True.
He was introduced a while ago in some different books and stuff like that. But for most people, their introduction to him is in Rebels. And from all the lore I've gathered, pretty much to say that he is probably the greatest. Like, there's been nothing that has been able to beat him unless it was something that he couldn't account for, like a surprise.
Yeah, like the Force.
Yeah, it's like I can't factor that into art, but he is a threat. And the fact that he's still alive. The last time we seen him in Rebels, spoiler alert, he was on a ship that was
with Ezra.
Where Ezra just shooting off into the distance, was going off on its own, and so we don't know why she's looking for him, but we do know that she is looking for him.
Yeah. So one thing about that, I want to give a little bit more description too, right? Of the end of Rebels, and again, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, here it is. He was in a huge starship. All the windows have been blown out. Like this is not a functioning vessel. Mm-hmm. Ezra Bridger was there with him. Used the Force to get these like space squids to pretty much send everything into hyperspace while the ship was broken. And all his friends are back on the floor like, yo, get out of there. He's like, nope, I got to do this. I got to make sure this dude gets put away, right? Obviously, something happened. Either that or Ahsoka's just trying to confirm that that he's dead, but it doesn't sound like he is. Yeah. It really doesn't.
So my takeaway from finish up.
I was gonna say the only thing that this does for me is gives us hope that Ezra is also alive. However, this is not something I'm looking forward to seeing in The Mandalorian because this is the Mandalorian story, right, not live action Rebels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's basically where I was going with that. It's like what that signaled to me when, because I was pretty much keeping up with everything that was happening in The Mandalorian when it would reference things that weren't related to The Mandalorian until Thrawn. Like, Thrawn is a little too deep lore for me. Like, I was planning to watch Rebels, I just never got around to it. So I did, look up the stuff on Thrawn, and it is interesting, but it's like, that's an entirely different story. And that's, from what you guys are saying, is very important to the Rebels storyline and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So
should not be important to Mando.
Right. And they don't really bridge it in any way. If they did, that would probably be problematic. What I'm thinking this might actually be is a backdoor pilot for a new action series called
Tano.
Yep.
Oh,
absolutely,
bro.
And that was my thoughts. They do a great job at doing things the movies didn't do, which was incorporate some of the lore, some Easter eggs and stuff here and there. The movies didn't do that. This does satisfy that hunger for more of the universe, but also, like you said, I do think as well that it's going to be a spinoff for Ahsoka Tano. She's too big just to have in a few episodes of The Mandalorian. Also, I think it might take place of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Series.
Take the place of, you mean?
Or come before that, because it's been a lot going on with that show as well. Losing the director, getting pushed back constantly. They had to recast some stuff. There had to be a rewrite of the actual stories, stuff like that. So,
Ewan McGregor recently said that about 80% of this new script is good, and he's really hyped about it. He showed up on set in full Obi-Wan gear. I think it was a week or two into filming or something like that, and they were all super hyped about it. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, he said that what I took away from that article is that he's hyped about the script about 80% so far. So hopefully they knock out that last 20, you know what I
mean? But I do agree. My bad, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. All I'm saying is, like, it's like, if outside of the story, like, none of that stuff, which was awesome. Like, I loved all the Ahsoka Tano stuff, but like, she really didn't engage with the plot as much as you thought she might have. Like, Bo-Katan is from another series, and she said, hey, go talk to Ahsoka Tano, who's from another series. And they're all just kind of sending him in like this kind of, I feel like they're like spinning him in circles.
Like a tour.
And then she says, you know what? I don't really want to have anything to do with this stuff. Go over here and go figure out what else you're going to do. And then maybe it'll get back to just more Mando stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
but like,
I don't think you can have Mandalorians without having Jedis. It would be, to me, there's been in the first season, it was very much in that corner of space. The Outer Rims didn't deal with much of anything else that was going on. But now, I mean, we've always wondered where these characters were and what was going on with them since their last appearances. And there's been too much of people not knowing what Jedi are, even though that wasn't that long ago. But like they just all got amnesia. I don't know if it's through the Force. Everybody just got their minds wiped.
It's probably just because it's space. You know,
yes.
the galaxy is big.
Yeah, it is very big. But the Jedi have been around for thousands and thousands of years to the point where it wasn't like they was just like a fad or something. And then from all just to get wiped out. But anyway.
But they weren't always good to everybody. That's the thing. Weren't. A lot of times Jedi showed up, wrecked the place, even though they saved a place. They wrecked it and bounced. You know what I mean? So, and you see this all the time in the Clone Wars. They go to a planet, people are like, we don't trust Jedi because X, Y, Z happened, right? That happens all the time. So
but they at least knew what Jedi were. Like that. Yeah, like that. I think
they were in the middle of a war at that point.
Like,
and the war just ended. The war just ended. Like you're still seeing the remnant.
This is 9 years after Mandalorian. Years after, I think it's episode 4. It was no. I read it was like 9 years BYE. So after the battle at Yavin, the first assault on and I might be reading that wrong. The first assault on Yavin.
I'm in Jeff's camp.
I
think it's too short a time period for everyone to have forgotten.
To forget.
Yeah.
I think they were just so rare at that point. And you don't even want to say the name Jedi, that it kind of just got phased out.
Because maybe the Empire was real aggressive about
it takes place 5 years after the fall of the Empire. So episode.
Oh, so after the 6th one. Excuse me.
After Return of the Jedi, it takes place 5 years after that. And
I was thinking about Rebels that takes place 9 years.
Ah, okay.
My bad. My fault.
But we do get a lot of cameo. I do like that they are incorporating more of the mythos, more characters. I do like that they're not around for super long, so the story doesn't revolve around them.
Yep.
Like I said, it does feel like a video game. Go see this person. I feel like Ahsoka sensed that these two belong together. They have a connection. I think that was part of the reason. I don't think she would believe so full-heartedly that just having attachments would make somebody inherently super susceptible to the dark side of the Force. She was never one to believe in that wholeheartedly.
But then Anakin happened.
He did happen. And I think that was an extreme factor. And to me,
and she had to fight him.
Yes. And I do go back to, I think Anakin was super gullible. I feel like he was too sheltered. Like, I feel like, I don't know. But like I said, we can go on about that for a long time.
Yeah, we'll have a stream to defend Anakin.
So I do love that they are incorporating people into the mythos, and I'm interested and super excited about the rest of the season. That's actually going to do it for us today. I'll leave Blue. I want to thank Blue Bones for joining me. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit his follow button. Go ahead and check him out.
Yeah, man. I have one more thing, if you don't mind.
I'm going to give you guys last remarks. Sigma Gears 9, go ahead and do the same thing. And definitely for me, go ahead and hit that follow button. Blue, you got anything that you want to leave the people with as far as what we...
Yeah. This is a hot take. I think the Star Wars movies are the worst part of Star Wars. Rogue One excluded. Rogue One is amazing. I think the series really make the fandom and really give justice to the people that have tried to love this series for years. So, Mandalorian, let's keep it going. Shows like this, let's keep it going. I am here for it.
Absolutely. Sigma, you got anything you want to leave us with?
Just that I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan here, but I do follow a lot of the stuff because I think the universe is cool and they do tell some cool stories in it. I'm worried that Disney's desperate because those movies didn't do as well as they would have liked, and Mandalorian is so popular, they're like, just put it all in this thing, and then they're going to overload it and basically weigh it down. So I can see the writing on the wall with some of the stuff they're doing, but hopefully it stays on track. Like, it's been doing okay so far. It's not the worst thing. I do think the first season might have been better so far, but we still have like a good amount of season left to go. I think, right? Another like what 5 episodes?
Yeah, I think so. I think it goes up
at
to
least.
10
Yeah.
episodes at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm still hyped about seeing how things progress. Right. It's been good overall.
I'm in the same. I do think season 2 is better. I do think season 1 was good as well. I don't really compare them. I feel like 1 was more of a isolated situation. 2, it starts to open it up and gives us some of those things that we want to see. I mean, I was excited. I mean, I don't remember being this excited for when the first time we saw those Mandalorians come from underground to help out Mando. I mean, I almost jumped out. Jumped out of my seat.
I literally jumped out of my seat. My fiance hates when I do that because we live on the second floor, and I'd be like, "Wow!"
And that's what I mean. That's what it should make you feel. And season 2 has done that for me. I mean, when I saw Bo-Katan show up, when we saw we saw Ahsoka show up, I was like, "Oh man, this is." I think I watched the episode like
but
5.
I don't know, because that's like lingering excitement from their projects, not from the Mandalorian itself.
Yeah, they look so good and they play so well. How many times does that happen? You know, like the cartoon to live action conversion is terrible on a regular basis. And this was good.
And that's shout out to Dave Filoni and his team and I mean, he came over from Endgame and Iron Man and all that stuff, and he seems to have such an appreciation for the lore of everything that he's doing, that they do service to the content that they're putting out, whether that be Marvel or Star Wars now. So I think that's definitely attributed to his team and the people that they got working for them over there. So
definitely does feel very Marvel.
Yeah, super, and it's great. I'm not complaining about it. And I guess we'll see how the last 5 episodes show out. We'll probably try to do this every 3 episodes, and then probably at the finale, just to give some time in between stuff. I know Blue, we're gonna be doing some Saturday Star Wars. Did you figure out what time you're doing that? Let people know so they can come.
I think you said after 3, right? So I think we're just doing that at 3. Yeah, we're doing that 3:30. I want to say. Well, hey, if you join the Discord, you'll know exactly when. If you follow all of our,
you got a point.
Yeah, you follow our social medias, you'll see that get posted. So 3-ish on Saturday, we're gonna be talking about the latest episode of Mandalorian. Spoilers. If you come in there and you hear something, don't be like, "Oh, dude, I didn't watch it yet." That's on you, bro. It's gonna be in the title, all right? Definitely watch the VOD after you've watched it if you don't get to catch it on Saturday. All right, but it's gonna be a lot of fun. We normally have a great time with that, and it's just gonna be talking BSing about Star Wars, hanging out for like 30-45 minutes. We'll see how long we go.
So you got anything coming up this week?
What's today? Thursday?
Yup.
Nope.
All day.
Nope.
Sunday. Make sure to check out the Signal Show and.
Right, yeah, sure. By the weekend.
Sunday going.
I didn't even think about Free for All Friday either.
We got Free for All Friday. I think Blue will let us know what we're playing. So again, be in the Discord. The Discord is the place to be. We have such a great community. Whether it's a streaming or we have people just play games casually. There's a little bit of everything going on. So definitely join the community. It is community. You can't have, what is it? Fast as I say, no community without unity. So definitely come out and check out the Discord. We'll love to have you. And thank you for coming out today and talking about Star Wars with us. So catch us out next episode for Star Wars So Far. Yeah. Peace.
Yeah. Deuces.